Welcome to Beyond the Ballot AZ. I'm your host, Tom Collins, Executive Director of the Arizona Citizens Clean Elections Commission.
And I'm Gina Roberts, Voter Education Director for Clean Elections.
Today we're talking trash. That is a local trash collection from the Tucson Environmental Services Department.
This is a service that is close to home, literally. We're covering what goes on behind the scenes and things you might be surprised you didn't know about.
And not to give anything away, but I think that you're going to find some things that you are really genuinely going to be surprised about in this interview.
I was speechless for a moment there, really shocked.
But nevertheless, it brings home, for everyone, I think certainly for Gina and I, how important it is to, that local government is and voting is, right? Because at the end of the day, I mean, these are the services that we take for granted, but they're really important.
Actually, a couple weeks ago, Tom, just to tell you about the great customer service I received.
Yeah.
And I imagine that some of our folks in the trash department, they see a lot of people in their pajamas running out when they hear that garbage truck coming, right?
Yeah.
I was one of them and a few weeks ago, and thankfully, he also pointed out to me that I had a flat tire. So,
that is helpful.
I mean,
that is.
Great customer service there.
I can't remember if it was Mr. Rogers or Sesame Street or something. They had a video of the landfill and, the trash process. And I think the other thing that's going to be really interesting about this interview for folks is, how much that has evolved. I mean, because, the stuff that's going into a landfill, it's got environmental consequences and all that stuff that, probably when I was a kid watching TV, I didn't think too much about, but now people are putting thought into that. We're here with the Director of Environmental Services Department at the City of Tucson, Carlos DeLaTorre. Director DeLaTorre, thanks for joining the show.
Thank you for having me. Thank you. Appreciate it.
One of the things that we were thinking about when we were putting this together is, in the show in general, is how do we, make sure folks have a sense of, how local government affects them on a day-to-day basis. And I think one of the questions that immediately comes to mind is we sort of understand what the Environmental Services Department does, but what are some of the surprising things about what the department does, do you think?
Sure. So at a very high level, we provide services to about 40,000 customers each day. Okay, so what is the makeup of that is roughly 30,000 refuse collections a day and about 10,000 residential recycling bins. We also service around about 1,100 homes for brush and bulky pickup every day. And also we landfill roughly about, I would say around close to 3,000 tons of waste at our landfill. So it's a very, I would say, comprehensive operation, very complicated operation. We make it, our folks in the field make it look like it's nothing, but it's really a lot of effort that goes along with that in terms of providing the service.
One question it occurred to me is, what's sort of the strangest thing anyone's ever called you to come pick up? I mean, if somebody ever called you and said, they've got a Ferris wheel that they want you to come dispose of or anything just completely out of the ordinary?
So I think for us, it's not so much on the collection side of things, because we're limited in terms of what we can pick up with our bins and our trucks, but we see a lot of stuff at the landfill. So horses, elephants. So we've seen those exotic loads that come in every once in a while, or somebody even disposing a big mobile home unit. So those are the things I've seen that are kind of strange that every once in a while they come up.
Director DeLaTorre, I'm going to need some more information on the elephant. What was that? Are you saying you've seen an elephant in a landfill?
So I think it's been a few years. So it's really obviously is a dead elephant. I don't know if he came from the zoo or he came really from another entity. But yeah, sometimes they bring animals really to the landfill so they can be disposed of. Yes.
Well, you really just connected the dots for me here on why the groundwater testing is so important as well, too. So I'm glad to know that the folks in the Environmental Services Department are keeping things clean and safe for us. The employees in your department are obviously very integral and important to the community. So with that said, do they get to go out there and represent your department and interact with the people that they are serving?
Sure. So we're very active on what we call the Arizona Solid Waste Association of North America. We have a lot of folks that have essentially been in that part of the association for many, many years. And so part of their events that they host an annual rodeo event. And that's really pretty much a competition with all the equipment operators get an opportunity to compete against each other. Last year we hosted here in Tucson, and I believe this year is going to be up in the Phoenix area. So we try to incentivize folks really to participate into that event. It's a lot of fun. Not only you're able to interact with other operators in the with other municipalities, but also the families. It really becomes to be a fun event. And if you are essentially the winner or the top three candidates, then essentially you get to compete in the national rodeo. So we had folks here in our department that have placed very well in at the state competition, and we actually had some operators at the landfill that actually participated in the national rodeo events. So it really gets to be very competitive. It's we amongst operators, and when you're talking about the difference of, I'm not talking about a foot, I'm talking inches. It gets very competitive, and so the judges have to be very, I would say, careful or very uh, as they go to the scores, because it really it's very competitive.
In that time, I mean, I would imagine that we touched on recycling a little bit, and we touched on the engineering and the environmental testing and all that stuff that goes into managing the environmental services department. How has that changed over your time, in doing this, and how has that evolved?
I think the changes that we have seen is obviously over the course of that almost 30 years is really just that transitioning from really just being what we call the landfill really to really more of a modernized engineering facility or an engineer facility where now you have to put liners, you have to monitor the groundwater, you have to monitor the landfill gas migration, not only laterally but vertically. A lot of regulations have come in terms of, or really, what is the limitations in terms of surface emissions, the need really to operate in a much cleaner environment. So we transition really from a very polluting diesel fleet to now a compressed natural gas fleet. We actually have one full-size electrical vehicle. So technology has really improved in those 30 years, not only in terms of the disposal, but the collection of that, and that really it's ongoing. That's what I think. It's really, we think that picking up garbage is the same as it was 30, 40 years ago, and it isn't the same. It really is evolving. There's a lot of technology in terms of the work that we do. There's a lot of regulations too as well, and it's really just trying to uh, stay afloat and keep up with those regulations, and how do we continue to service the folks with the best technology that we may have available in front of us.
So I think one other thing we wanted to ask about, I noticed that last year the city was recognized by Circular Arizona as a leader on sustainable waste management practices, and I was curious, just sort of from a policy perspective, what is the impact on your department and managing it of city council decisions, and do you see a lot of policy changes? It looked like this award recognized, some policy decisions that you all have implemented around, sort of recycling and reducing waste.
Sure. So from a policy perspective, the council has been very active on really instructing us and guiding us really to achieve some high level goals. And there's three main components that really affect our department, or really embedded in the department. We're responsible for those. One is really achieving carbon neutrality by 2030, achieving zero waste by 2030, and zero waste by 2050. So it's really it's and while we do that, we also got to keep in mind that our normal work needs to keep on. It's ongoing. And how do we continue to operate the services in the as-is condition? How do we continue to develop these programs and move them forward and try to move the needle? So to your point, yes, we were awarded that award by Circular Arizona, and that was really, I believe, related to our there's three programs that we have developed in the past 3 years. One was our glass recycling program, our glass reversion program, our food waste at home program, and a plastic diversion program. So those are all, I would say, directed by council in terms of the overall policy decision. And then our responsibility is really just to look at what is the best way to really to implement those programs, continue to operate those programs, and really just make them successful. So, and in that is what resources do we really need to bring to the table to not only implement those programs, but to continue to operate those programs.
Well, one of the things we try to do on Beyond the Ballot AZ is help voters understand, going beyond what they are making their choices on the ballot and how that impacts their lives daily. And clearly with the services provided by the Environmental Services Division here, you can see that, so if I'm a voter and I'm living in Tucson, I may want to pay attention to my local city council race because my council member can have a say, can have an impact and shape those policy directives that they are sending to your department. So, again, voting in those local elections is so important, and it impacts our daily lives, such as our trash and recycle services.
Thanks for listening to Beyond the Ballot AZ. I'm Tom Collins.
And I'm Gina Roberts.